And welcome back to 90s Noise. This is Ashley, born 1988.
I'm April, born 1991.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
To another episode of 90s Noise.
All right, spooky season's over.
Which is crazy though, because
I literally felt like October was like in a blink of an eye.
yeah, it's crazy to think that this is the end of the year. We are wrapping up the year that never ended, never wanted to end.
It's the year that never ends.
Pretty much. So we're wrapping up 1993, but we've got one more movie to discuss.
That we do. That we do.
Yes.
I could not leave 93 behind without giving some thought to this amazing movie. One of my favorites, I feel like, even as an adult. And I think I like it even more as an adult now. But
yeah,
Mrs. Doubtfire is just, I feel like, the most classic movie that comes out of the 90s as like a feel-good comedy, something that's heartfelt.
yeah, it wasn't bad. I admit that like I personally was never huge on it growing up. I watched it maybe a couple of times here and there. I don't know. I think for me personally, I just wasn't super comedy focused growing up. I was a lot more
Yeah, we know you were
action.
watching the Ninja movies.
Yeah, well, I just it was more action stuff. And
Yeah.
so I know I watched this growing up multiple times, but it's probably been at least 25 years since I've seen it.
Wow. So you're seeing it now almost with like a whole new perspective then, because like some
Yeah.
of the stuff that happens in the movie, I never caught as a kid, never would have understood as a kid.
Mhm.
So now watching it at my age, it's just, I feel like you get a new perspective. And we've talked about this a lot since doing this podcast about how certain shows and movies have sort of made us look at them differently and a lot of
Yeah.
times better than when we watched them as kids. And that's what I feel like this movie does. Like I literally had it on just right before we started recording. It's just, I don't know, it's there's something about it that's really magical. And I feel like a big part of it obviously is Robin Williams. I mean,
Definitely.
it's just, I couldn't imagine anyone else doing this role. Like it just fits him so perfectly. And oh, I just love it.
I love his character. I do. I feel like for me that there was a decent amount of movies though in the early 90s, and I'd have to get the exact timeline of that kind of atmosphere of like a guy dressing up as a female for whatever reason.
Really? I
And
don't remember that.
so there was another one. It was what was the name of it? Ladybugs, I think. It was like a soccer one. And it had okay, so it was actually 1992 was when this one came out, and it had Rodney Dangerfield and Jonathan Brandis.
Mm-hmm.
And it also had Vanessa Shaw from Hocus Pocus.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of had a similar aspect in a sense where like where Jonathan Brandis's character dresses up as a girl to play on the girls soccer team to
Okay.
and then at one point I think Rodney Dangerfield's character dresses up as a girl, as a woman too.
I mean, you're right.
So
There are other movie concepts. Like I'm thinking of some that are more like early 2000s, like the one with Amanda Bynes where she's the
she's the man.
man.
Mm-hmm.
White Chicks, of course, is a
Yeah.
classic. Like they're dressing up as something. But I guess it's just the way that this one was used, like the way that they used that character
I
for
did
him.
like that aspect of it where it wasn't necessarily like
He wasn't trying to make
to
fun or
win or to get like to
right.
an upper hand
Yes. Yes.
in a competition.
Right.
Like a lot of times that is. No, I mean, I don't really have negative thoughts on this movie. It's just not one that I watched religiously or regularly
Right.
as a child or even really growing up.
Yeah, and I personally don't recall the times that I watched it as a kid. I mean, I know it was in our rotation. And I know I liked the little girl because of her being in Matilda and her being in Miracle on 34th Street. Like those are two of
Yeah.
my other really big movies that I watched in the 90s. So I think associating her with that was another reason for me to watch that movie. And then also, I mean, like Robin Williams, I mean, I think he was just hysterical and the way that he was able to do. I mean, just that opening scene of all those different voices that he
Yeah.
did in that, just a couple of lines, it was, I don't know, it just pulled you in.
Did you feel I felt very Fern Gully when he was ad-libbing
Mm-hmm.
about the cigarette and everything. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, this feels very much like the how he did most of the Patty rap and
Yeah.
everything. And
Yeah. I
so
was thinking
that's
about that.
I was like, okay, we're kind of tying things in here and everything.
Yeah. I feel like he definitely did a lot of those sort of roles where he was playing, like using a lot of different nuances in his voice and accents and stuff in that early 90s period, like with Fern Gully. And then he did Aladdin and this one. I feel like even Jumanji he was a bit of a, I don't know, I think he, I don't remember
How did you say that?
Jumanji,
One more time?
Jumanji.
The first time you said it, you like emphasized a
Oh, did I?
portion of it that I had never heard
Oh, really?
before.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I was like, wait, because I've always said Jumanji.
Jumanji. Yeah. But now, yeah,
So
I know. Now I'm like, I don't know, Jumanji.
that's you're like Jumanji
I feel
or
like I
something
do
like
put more emphasis on the first consonant.
yeah, and that's what
Jumanji.
I was like, wait, what? Sorry, I'm like, wait a second, I've not heard that before.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he was an incredible actor and both voice and in person. It seems like there was never a dull moment with him.
No, like anytime he was on screen, he like took hold of that character and the emotions that he was going through, because that's another thing about this movie that I can take away from more as an adult is the divorce aspect of this film, where it's not like, oh, the parents are already divorced or it's in this like really hostile type divorce situation. No, it's like two adults that have decided this is not going to work out. They're getting a divorce. They have all these kids, and you kind of see how the whole family is going through it, not just one side. Like you see Robin's character, you see kind of how it's affecting the kids, and then you also see the wife. So
Yeah,
I do
I
kind
mean,
of like that, how they handled that whole situation.
yeah, I mean the whole thing started where he didn't want it
Right.
and he was fighting it, and that's why he was doing everything he could, and including trying to get more time with his kids because he just didn't like that aspect, which is understandable. But I do like the how it kind of affects everybody. And that first dinner, that first Saturday or whatever, when she dropped him off late and then she came an hour early, it's
Right.
like, what? I mean, you hear about that as like horror stories and everything, and I just, to me, I in my mind I'm just, oh, if you can't abide by these times yourself, like that should be a knock against you and not him, because he's ready to go. It's not like he was late picking them up
Right.
or something of that sort. It was all on the mom. And I mean, I get it, her job's pretty much, she was the breadwinner, And so that's where a lot of the stress came from.
Right.
But still, if you've got commitments for your kids, I feel that should come before
Right.
other things. Like, you shouldn't be making excuses. I mean, it's not like their dad was a drunk or
Right. And it's
abusive or anything of
exactly.
that sort. It
And that's the
was,
thing. Yeah. He was just wanting to be there for his kids, and he just,
yeah.
didn't have the career that obviously would allow him to have a stable
Hmm.
side of it. But I also like, which I definitely did not remember as a kid. I always feel like at the end of the movie, I created it in my mind or whatever that they were getting back together, like they had like mended their relationship. But
Hmm.
the movie doesn't end that way. Like they are just two separated, a divorce maybe at some point. They're not trying to emphasize that they are going to ever get back together. They're just like, hey, we're going to compromise
Yeah.
and we're going to work together on this, which I thought was really cool.
I admit, though, I didn't care for the ending because I do feel like it was just a very end. Like, it really,
It did have an
I
abrupt end. It really
I
did.
don't feel like there was a conclusion. And it's not even necessarily putting them back together, but
Right.
maybe like them celebrating a different kid's birthday and being okay together.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, that was a little bit, and that's maybe why I gave that ending to it as a kid, like, oh, okay, they're
Hmm.
getting back together, because it really didn't feel super complete. Like you can kind of
Yeah.
get the gist of the direction they were going with it. Like they weren't trying to be just a typical, oh, two parents are going through it, they're going to get a divorce, and then at the end of the movie, like, oh no, we actually fell back in love with each other. I like that they were real about it, because it usually doesn't happen very
Yeah.
often.
Yeah, and my thing is I feel like even her potential relationship with Pierce Brosnan's character didn't have, there was what the last scene with him was the dinner,
Hmm.
and that's it. Like, so
Right,
what
there's
happened
definitely,
there?
yeah. So
Like,
like you could, put your own spin on it that they're still seeing each other. Like they're still, I mean, because it's not like anything ended
yeah.
badly where it could be like, oh, they're not going to want to go. I mean, even though it was kind of a crazy dinner, but and that's the thing with Stu. I always felt like as a kid he was supposed to be the bad guy. Like, oh, this new guy's coming in to tear up these two parents. Like, don't separate this family. But he's not the bad guy. He's not playing a
He's
villain.
not.
He's literally just like, hey, she's she's getting a divorce. She's cool with going out. We have a prior history. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens. Like he's being really generous with the kids, like, and super nice. So you're, as an adult, you're like, you can't hate the guy. He's not doing anything
Yeah.
wrong.
Especially considering the fact that a lot of times there's issues with the new
Hmm.
person, whether it's on the male side or female side,
Exactly.
trying to make the parent distance themselves from the kids because it's
Yes.
like, oh,
Yes.
they're in my way or something of that sort. I mean, that's what you see all the time on like other TV
Oh my
shows. you
gosh.
see
Yeah.
you see that on true crimes, but that's not the case in this movie.
Mm-mm.
That's not the case. And so I feel like as an adult, I'm sure I didn't care about this as a child because it was an hour and a half long movie. And so I was probably at that point ready for it to be over with just because my attention span. But as an adult, I truly was one where I'm like, okay, where's the close to this?
Hmm.
We're kind of like in the slope of the third act, but where's the finale? Like
Right.
you started the finale, but where's the final finish? So that's
Yeah, and it's almost
I
like
had
one of,
issues with that.
yeah, and it's almost like they could have carried it on into a sequel at that rate. Since they didn't really give
Yeah.
it that final finale, you could have been like, okay, so it's kind of open-ended. So now they have the
Hmm.
luxury to kind of take it wherever. Do they want to,
Yeah.
keep Stu and Miranda together? Do we want to get the parents back together or whatever? So it would have been, I don't know, it's one of those movies that I feel like doesn't work for a sequel though. Like I just can't think of it needing that much more to it.
I see both on that. Like it's almost, I feel like this was more of a, could almost be more of a TV series, like a first
Yeah,
season, and you
yeah.
just didn't get that finale episode. Like they canceled it right before the
Oh
finale or something,
no.
like that kind of
Oh.
thing. That's kind of how I feel with this movie. It, because you're right, it really doesn't have much to play on for a sequel. I mean, unless they ended up doing it where it was years down the road and the kids were grown and maybe the son had a similar situation and
Oh my
had to
God, can you
pull
imagine?
the same shit. And then we see like an older Robin Williams character and Sally Fields characters, and then we kind of get that backstory of, okay, are they still separated? Did they
Hmm.
mend their relationship?
Okay, going off like side thought on this though, what did you think of the TV show that was inside of this movie that Robin Williams ended up doing at the end? Like, does that look like a show that you would want to have watched as a kid?
Are we talking the Mrs. Doubtfire show or
Yes.
the one before? Okay, because the one
Yeah.
before, no.
No. Yeah.
that
Flip
that would
real
have
quick.
that would have been one. I need something on in the background just for noise while I'm in a fever haze and just need to like sleep. That'd be really, that first one though would have been interesting. Like kind of going off on a tangent on this one, but if you were hopped up on medication, or whether it's like cough syrup or flu medicine or Mary Jane, and watching that first one with the dinosaurs and that would have been that would have been interesting. But I did like, I kind of wish there was a little bit more with how Robin Williams had jumped in and was doing
Doing his
his
rap
little thing.
thing. Oh, that one
Yeah,
kind of reminded me of Fern Gully because he started doing
yeah.
the rap with the dinosaurs. That one was cool.
But the Mrs. Doubtfire TV show, honestly, maybe when I was like kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah.
After that,
No.
probably not. It
Mm-mm.
was the voice he did with for Mrs. Doubtfire was just a little too, it was a little, not necessarily monotone to me, but more kind of like what you would listen to when you're trying to sleep.
Mm.
If
Yeah, you
you're
just want like
if you're
to zone
sick
something out.
or something, it's very much so just kind
Hello,
of,
dear.
yeah, there wasn't enough like emphasis on
It was
certain
very
ways.
soothing though. Like if you really just
It
needed
was
something
soothing.
mild, maybe to bring the kids down after their crazy, like wild
Maybe,
day, you could
yeah.
just be like, here, dinner's about to
Yeah.
start. Just watch this very mild show, and then it'll just
Yeah.
everyone just be like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that I could see, but so no, I would not have really cared for either of the shows. But I was also one of those that liked more of the animal theme, like
Yeah. Like his
big cats.
dinosaur, the rendition that he put on the dinosaur one was cute. Like he would have had to have developed it more, but I did
Yeah.
like what he did with it.
I might have watched that one,
Yeah.
but otherwise neither of them, because I know also unless they added saber-toothed tigers in,
Mm,
because
that's true.
I
They
wasn't,
probably would have. I mean, they're part of that same time period.
yeah, eventually, like, well, that, but that's the thing, if we're really, well, sciencey here, but if we're really going off of time periods, half of those dinosaurs weren't even alive during the same time. The amount of time that we've been on the earth is like minuscule
Hmm.
compared to the dinosaurs, but you've got like so much more of a timeline, and it's like cut up into like three different
Hmm.
sections.
Yeah.
Some of those were this section, some were this section, some were that section, whereas like Jurassic Park and those types of movies just throw them all in.
Oh my
And it's like,
gosh.
no, that's really not correct in that sense. But
It's been
It's
lies.
Hollywood. The lies. The lies they tell us as children.
So did you catch, I don't remember his name, the character he plays, but Miranda's like assistant or boss guy or whatever at the office, that what else did he do
Oh
besides
my
like
gosh.
tell her
I
that what's his name was on the wants to work
he
with
really
her,
wasn't he really wasn't
and
in
yeah, that he was like in
much
two
though.
scenes or whatever, but
Yeah, but
that's
I
the
recognized him.
that's the guy from the How the West Was Fun.
That's right. Yeah.
That's who I always associate him with. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
there's the villain.
Yeah, Justin Gregory. Well, he was also really that's the only thing you associate him with.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, girl. He was Clue. He was
Clue.
Colonel
Nice.
Mustard in Clue. He was also in Jingle All the Way.
I didn't watch that
Um
one though, girl. I'm not a cult follower of that.
you never just wait until 1996. That is or actually or hmm that is a holiday one.
Oh, you're right. Maybe
We
we should
might
do
have to go ahead
two
and do that.
because we did talk to Brian, so we did promise to like we should watch that.
Yeah. I mean, but no, he's been in so much. I originally my first thought for him was I think it was probably jumping me back to Clue
Mm.
because yeah.
I only watched that maybe once, so no,
Really?
I don't picture him with that movie. You know, I always remember him in the Mary Kate and Ashley. I mean, come on, I mean, it's Mary Kate.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. How the West was fun. How the West was
Oh,
fun. Yeah.
fun.
I'd forgotten he was in that, and I'd also forgotten that Pierce was in this.
I know he like it's such a baby face,
I know.
such a different role.
Before before all the James
That was
or
before,
Bond.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bond.
that's what I
James
thought.
Bond.
That is so
I
funny.
think it was like right before.
It had to have been right before.
Is James Bond, his James Bonds were the mid to
Early 2000s.
late 90s. I don't know if he went into the 2000s with Bond.
I can't
I
remember.
think that might have been when they swapped out. Let's see. Oh, yeah, he did. Die Another Day. I think was that his last one? Yeah, so he did.
Yeah.
He just broke into 2000 barely. Yeah, I completely forgotten he was in it. I was like, "Oh, shit." Okay. I do think that this was probably one thing that I'd seen Matthew in. I was kind of like, "Oh, he's okay."
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after, Brotherly Love started, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, definitely."
Yeah.
My little 4 or 5-year-old self when Brotherly Love started.
Yeah, I think my favorite scene with him is when he walks in on Mrs. Doubtfire peeing, and that whole like, Dad? Like I love that scene. I think it's so good. It's so good.
I completely forgot about that one because I'd always been like, how I couldn't remember if the kids had known. And so I forgot about that scene. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, so are they gonna tell? And it's like, don't tell Natty. I'm like,
yeah, that would be you not getting
what?
to know.
Why do they always pick on the youngest? That's not fair. Not fair. Justice for Natty.
Justice for Natty.
Justice for Natty.
He's so
It's gonna
cute
be
though.
that's gonna be the hashtag for this one.
Oh my gosh. I think the one scene that I feel like is my favorite is the restaurant scene though.
Where
Like
he's going back and forth.
yeah, I feel like that bit is just you're like, okay, how is he gonna do this for one? Like you know the whole setup's coming and you're like, okay, how is this gonna work? Like I don't think so. But just the way that he manages to execute it, and then I think the whole putting the spice in his dish, and which is kind of very mean, like that's terrible, like don't do that. But just that whole he's running over to save him, I think is just so fitting for who he is in
Yeah.
this movie. And like, okay, there's the two guys, like, oh, they don't really have any animosity with each other at the end. They're like, okay,
Mhm.
all right, cool. They're just both like, oh yeah, at the end.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. I did wonder because I didn't, like I said, I didn't remember a whole lot about this movie. And so I wondered how it was going to come to fruition where it was revealed.
Mm.
And as soon as they were talking about her birthday and everything, I was like, all right, I was looking at the time, I was like, okay, it's got to be coming here soon. So it's got to be like the big reveal's got to be there somehow. And then I'm like, all right, so where is he gonna mess up?
Mm-hmm.
And then originally it started off with him and what was it, Mr. Lundy, and he was
Mm-hmm.
still dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire. And it's
He
like
plays it off though. It's so good.
he did. Because he like sits down and he's talking regular and everything, and the guy and he's like mid. And it's like, well, that's also what, like, what, 7 freaking scotch drinks in 5 minutes will do to somebody?
Yikes.
Like,
Yeah,
good
like
Lord.
slow
I mean,
down.
I'm one of those that's whenever I do actually end up doing drinks and everything, I'm more of a heavy liquor person, like
Mm.
scotch and brandy and everything. But I'm like, good Lord, even I wouldn't do that shit that
Not that
much and that.
quickly. Yeah.
No, I would maybe do 2 in like
Mm-hmm.
a 4-hour dinner time frame. 2.
Right.
And that last one is probably not completed. It's, yeah, I'm like, no shit, he's falling over when he goes back to sit with the family and everything because he can't even see straight.
Oh, but that also reminded me because like just them going in to get seated with the whole, you remember that, smoking or non-smoking, like remember always having
Mm-hmm.
to choose, and then you would go to a restaurant. I remember going to a restaurant and obviously it was always non-smoking for us, even though my parents smoked, but we didn't want to sit in smoking because, but then getting to a restaurant, they're like, oh well, non-smoking's full, it's going to be a wait, and then my parents would be like, oh well, let's just go sit in smoking, and how different the experience was. You're like, oh my god.
But even non-smoking, unless they truly had it was a you walk through a door
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and everything, having a there was this meme before memes were a thing where it was like one of those, I think it was one of those like stickers, like almost like the Happy Bunny sticker type deal,
Mm-hmm.
where it literally said having a smoking and non-smoking section restaurant is like having a peeing and non-peeing section in a pool.
It's so
There is
accurate.
no difference.
There's no difference. There wasn't. No.
Because 98% of the damn time, you had to walk through the smoking section to get to the non-smoking section.
Mm-hmm.
So by
Or
the
to get to
time
the
you got to the
bathroom or
smoke,
something. Yeah.
yeah. And it was would be times that we would go into a restaurant and we would turn around and walk out because it was
Yeah.
just so
Mm-hmm.
thick.
Yeah.
And all 3 of us kids have had asthma,
Mm.
and smoking was a huge
Yeah.
aggravator of
That would have
that
been
when we
hard.
were younger. Yeah, that was kind of that was a flashback, the whole
Yeah.
smoking,
A whole
non-smoking. I'm like,
culture shock of
holy
like, oh
crap.
yeah. That was a great day when they banned indoor
Oh
smoking.
my gosh. But people are still doing it now. They just
Yeah.
vape.
They just,
Oh, well, it's a vape.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The same
It's
freaking damn
so,
thing.
what was I watching that? Oh my God, what was I watching recently that it was, he was outside and he was vaping and some guy came up and was like, no, or he was smoking a cigarette or something and the guy was like, no smoking. And then he turned around and started vaping and the guy was like, he just said no
That's the
smoking. And he's like,
same
it's vaping.
freaking thing. It's the same thing.
Vape.
It's the same
No,
damn
it's not. I'm
thing.
like, you need to educate yourself then.
It's the same damn thing.
Oh,
You are still putting nicotine in your damn. It is just a higher, what is it? A higher concentrate of like or it's the, I don't even know. This is, you can tell I'm
I
not a
don't
smoker.
know much about vaping
I,
or
I,
smoking.
yeah, I mean, I think I've smoked a cigarette once in my life, and that was, I didn't even like actually smoke it. It was just like one puff, and I like died coughing.
Yeah, with my parents smoking, with me growing up, I never wanted to try it. I was like, nope, this is not for me.
I think it was a freaking party or something, and it was just, well, why don't you just try it kind of thing. I was like, I'll try once, but like
A cigarette or marijuana?
a cigarette.
Oh,
We're
nicotine,
not we're not talking about
tobacco.
Mary. We're not talking about Mary Jane right now. No, we're not.
Okay,
That's a whole other.
I was about to
Story.
say, I'm like, okay.
That's a whole other story. That's
we
where
should
we.
have an episode on that because the 90s are all about just say no to drugs.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have we'll have a the drug free episode.
While
But
not
no,
drug free, while
I
intoxicated.
uh, uh,
That could be a fun
we
episode.
we are in Florida, where if you do have your medical card, it's it is you're good to go for medical reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was older, because like, you always hear about people like trying that when they're like 10 to
Yeah.
13 and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I was like 16, 17. So number one, I was almost of age to be able to buy it myself. Yeah, I didn't care for it at all. And yeah, I haven't ever touched a cigarette since then. So I just can't. And I mean, even like a hookah, I can only do very seldom, and I've got to be like it's got to be a certain time of year where my asthma's not flaring up, because it kicks me in the ass. Even with that, I mean, asthma is a great excuse to
Exactly. Like,
not get
right.
addicted,
Yeah.
right?
Shucks.
Yeah, shucks.
But my favorite line of this whole movie, let me know if you agree with me, is by the amazing Sally Fields at the restaurant. Do you know what I'm going to say?
No.
Yeah, I know you don't. The whole time.
Okay.
So the way she says it, the amount of time she says it, how she says
Yeah.
each one is so different from the next, and it just Oscar-winning performance for me.
I thought it was great. I thought that reveal was great. It took me a second to realize which portion of the mask was falling,
Yeah.
but it was the top.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be the reveal to be Pierce's character looking back and being like, "What are you packing?"
That could have been a good way to do it too.
I mean, because he would have felt that and everything with the Heimlich. But that's what I was expecting, was some sort of reveal in regards to that, not the mask having fallen. Although I really, really wanted Robin's character to be like, "Look, Frank, it's roadkill," with the mask, when the mask had been ran over.
Yes.
Something like that, just because. But I know that that was more of a Jim Carrey and the mask.
Well,
Look, Mom, it's roadkill.
And I did, yeah, I know. I did read that he did obviously a lot of improv on this, but that he did a lot of takes of a lot of these really classic scenes, because he just tried different versions of these lines, and that there is kind of like an R-rated movie, like a PG-13, whatever, all the different classifications of these movies, because he did different takes. So there are some that are a little bit more raunchy in them. So I watched like some of the behind the scenes and deleted scenes, and you kind of get a taste of that and kind of get where he was going, and it's really funny.
I think it's about time that they bring it back on Blu-ray and have it as like 3 separate versions. Well, because I mean, this
Pretty
one was
cool.
PG-13.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'd be all for seeing the R as an adult.
Oh, heck yeah.
And that's what I was wondering too, because it's like even just I would love if they had the cutting room floor cuts and just throwing those all together. Like even not even just as a movie, but just being like deleted edits or something
Right.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just a whole like
Yeah.
dude, a freaking 2-3 hours probably at least. And that I'd be because I always liked watching behind the
Oh,
scenes,
I
like
love
the
it.
deleted scenes or
Mm-hmm.
extended scenes.
Yeah.
And so I'd always like to see that and or
Those are like,
bloopers.
I, that was my thing with the Mary Kate and Ashley is
Oh my
whenever they
gosh.
did the behind the scenes or bloopers, I lived for those. I was like, yes, thank you. Like you were like, I'm
Yes.
in your world more. Like it's just
Yes.
ah,
I love like literally that was part of the reason why I begged for a DVD player and then begged for a Blu-ray player because I wanted to get because like VHSs really it was just usually during the credits
mm-hmm.
was all you got.
Yeah.
But then when DVDs came out, they started adding those extras that extra shit. And I'm like, I want it all. And then then when Blu-rays came out, they were adding even more to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
DVDs were getting a few little things
Yeah.
like, okay, if MTV had been on the set, it was on the
Oh
DVD.
God,
But
yeah.
they would actually have like true like interviews and stuff with
Right, yeah.
Blu-rays.
Mm-hmm.
And
Commentary.
oh my gosh, don't even get me started on commentaries. I don't even think I knew what the hell commentary was
No.
until Lord of the Rings.
I would always skip over those for a while because I was like, oh, why do you want commentary while you're watching? And then once I started listening to the commentary, oh, it changed
Oh
my
my
world.
gosh. So much. Like it's hard for me to watch the extended versions of Lord of the Rings without commentary anymore. And I just keep thinking about the comment like I can still hear the
Oh,
commentary in my
yeah.
head. I love hearing because you don't hear about that shit
Mm-mm.
very often. That's not something you'd hear in an interview. It's
No.
not something even an interviewer would ask.
I wonder if they still do that though, because I feel like that was like a really 2000-y thing that
Mm-hmm.
they did.
I've
I don't know that
I've
they
not
still, not that I haven't had a DVD in a while, but
mm, I haven't seen even because we'll go through and when we're at the store, we'll go through their
mm,
entertainment section, look at some DVDs, and we've looked at some of the newer ones, and I've not seen it
hmm.
because they just don't.
Weird.
I don't think they truly like. They don't. I feel like they don't do as much promotion for the movies
Well,
anymore,
because of
especially
streaming
once. Yeah,
and social
and
media, you were like wasting your time doing commentary. Well,
I would go back to DVDs and Blu-rays simply for commentary.
hmm,
Simply
yeah,
for it.
I agree.
Give me the damn commentary. Just do it. Give it to me.
Yeah, that's what they should do. Some of these older movies, they should, if the actors are still alive and can remember, they should have them do a new like commentary thing. Like that
Yeah,
would be so cool. Mary
that
Kate and
would
Ashley,
be.
you need to do that, but I know you're
Hmm.
not.
Yeah.
Please.
That'd be an interesting or like have all of the other actors from the movies.
Yeah,
I'd watch
I
Holiday in the
I would
Sun,
listen.
listen to the commentary if they've got Megan Fox and on that shit too. Hell
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That, see, like,
And that's especially nowadays with Zoom and everything, that would be so easy
yeah.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like they used to have to be all in one place, but they just pop it up here, screen share on Zoom, and record like this and just pull the
I
audio
feel like
from
they
it.
were doing that a lot during COVID, like not commentary, but they were bringing back a lot of these older
Yes,
cast
they did.
reunions to
So
talk.
like Josh Gad did that, did like a little series called Together Apart or something like that. And he had gotten a handful of the different ones.
Hmm.
I believe Back to the Future. Forgive me on this. The only one I actually truly watched the whole thing of was Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
But there was other ones too. He did a handful of them, and it was a Zoom where talking, and it was the only thing that sucked for it was only like an hour long.
Right.
And if it was a larger cast, you didn't get as much. Like
Mhm.
with Lord of the Rings, it was like 15 of them
Oh
and
God.
everything. So I mean, it was great to watch it, and I love that. But yeah, I think that would be fun to just so many of them are doing conventions and everything now
Yeah.
too. So okay, or do like a live watch with commentary or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be
That could be an
mhm.
interesting too.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
all the different podcasts and everything else going on right now, they could easily do something like that. You could even make a podcast for each episode of a different movie that they're having the actors commentate on as
Yeah.
they all watch the movie.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Gave you an idea.
all in all, Mrs. Doubtfire was a pretty decent movie. Again,
Pretty decent movie. Oh, girl.
girl, like I said, it for me personally, it was more enjoyable as an adult than as a child, just because again, I wasn't super big in the comedy only.
Mhm.
If there wasn't any type of action, I know you love it. I mean, I
Yeah,
love Robin Williams, I do.
exactly. Yes. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Until next time,
Bye.
ciao.